All right, this week we're here with Tarek Pertew. Tarek is the founder of New York City Footy. That's NYC Footy. Why are we here? Tell me about NYC Footy.
I'm glad you're here. Thanks for letting us tell our story here.
We're actually here in your new warehouse.
Yeah, we're in our brand new warehouse in Williamsburg. One of the founders of NYC Footy, his family owns a hardware store in Williamsburg called Crest. So anyone listening or watching that lives in Williamsburg definitely knows Crest. Joe is like the mayor of Williamsburg. He's got a huge beer and everything.
Is that on Havermeyer?
It's on Metropolitan.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right on the corner. But that's been our HQ for years. So when we first started Footy, we would work out of his office. And then over time, with remote work and everything, it just became sort of where we would ship everything. And then we were using storage places. We were renting 3 different storage units for our events, for our jerseys, for all this other crap. And then through Joe, we had this opportunity to take over this warehouse, monster warehouse in Williamsburg. And so now we've got this huge space where you're sitting. It's pretty raw. I anticipate it not changing too much, but yeah, we've got jerseys everywhere. We've got some of our championship scarves from years past hanging on the wall. Old logo, new logo. I don't know what they've been watching in here. We got a TV, but yeah, this is effectively, a lot of the blood runs through this place now.
I love it. Before we revert back to where it all began, tell me about the logo.
Well, it kind of harks back to where it all began. So we were playing soccer in the Lower East Side. That's kind of where we were playing every week, and that's when the idea of NYC
Over by
Footy
Baruch
hatched.
or Christie?
No, we were actually in the heart of Chinatown in Columbus Park off Baxter. So you would walk down Baxter, you pass Whiskey Tavern.
Under the bridge.
Close, not quite under the bridge, but very close. It's actually it's past so you would walk past the Manhattan Bridge on Canal until you hit Baxter and make a left, and there's this little hidden field right by City Hall. It's like right by one of the walls of City Hall, and it's just a really iconic park because you have this soccer pitch, but all around it is this local diaspora, mostly Chinese playing chess and all these different things and Tai Chi happening here. And it still is that way. That's one part of Manhattan that hasn't changed. We played there every week on Sundays. And one day I said, we should start our own league. We should have stats. We should have a nice website. We should have real jerseys because we were wearing these thick Gildan T-shirts, just awful. And
how many teams were there at the time?
We were in the league we were playing. We were probably playing against the same circuit of. So recreational soccer typically is you'll pair up with some friends and you'll join a team, and you'll play every week, same time every week kind of thing. Within the same time window every week. And you go and you play and then you go get some beers later. That's like the run of show. Everyone loves it. It's a big fabric of a lot of people's sort of social, life, if you will, in New York. And
is a lot of it people who played soccer growing up, or they played in college, and now it's their, you have your 9 to 5.
Yeah, I mean, that was traditionally what it was. As we get into the pod, you'll see that that's changed a bit. But like I played in high school, most of my team, I think 1 or 2 people on our team played in college. We were like a pack of misfits. We lost every game at the start, and then eventually we were starting to win everything, which was good. You just get used to playing with each other. But no, I think most people that played in high school, basically. I'd say most people that play in these leagues have played some level of competitive soccer, but not at an elite level like college or beyond. But we played against some teams, said, hey, let's start our own league. We created this brand, NYC Footy. That was Geroto's idea. And then when it came to what is the logo going to be, the original logo was a rat on a soccer ball, coming like out of the like crawling over the soccer ball. And it was we wanted some mascot that really was iconic in New York. And the rat is probably the most iconic when you think about New York, really. But it's not a really like. There's probably a way of making a rat on a ball look inviting and something you want to wear, but it took about a week before we were like, we got to ditch the rat. And so we went with.
Were you looking at? Because I know that there's some sports teams whose mascot is the rat. There's, I think, the New Jersey Devils.
I didn't even know that.
I think their farm team is like the River Rats.
Really?
Oh yeah. So and I know that. So my favorite logos in the entire world are AAA baseball teams.
Is that right?
AAA baseball teams have the
That's
coolest
interesting.
names, the coolest logos. So what I would have done is like look at like all right, let's see at all these minor league baseball teams, and
Get some inspiration from that.
what they've done.
Yeah. Well, you got the Staten Island Riverhawks, or the Ferry Hawks, I think. Are they considered a AAA
minor
team?
league. Well, I guess there's minor league.
I don't know how it works. Yeah,
Minor league baseball, but their stadium is very cool on the water.
So we're going to be we're working with them now to host a league.
Oh, very
at
cool.
the stadium.
Oh, that's epic because
Yeah.
like the view is I guess similar because you guys probably play also
Brooklyn
a bit
Bridge Park. We play on every field in New York.
So
we
you
play
knew what I
on.
was going to say.
Yeah.
So Brooklyn Bridge Park, where you have just the view of the city.
They've got it. Yeah. The idea with the Ferry Hawks is it's like play a game and then stay to watch the actual Ferry Hawks game, and we were going to package it somehow. We're still working on it. It's a little complex. I told me we had to bench it for a bit because we got too much going on here for me to sort of launch something new at that level, but we'll see if that happens. But anyway, we ended with a pigeon. Someone's like, hey, well, what about a rat with wings? We'll do the pigeon. So the first logo was
Not for nothing. The pigeon is also pretty iconic to New York.
the pigeon. I mean, if I said the most iconic creature in New York, there's probably split decision if it's the rat or the pigeon, to be honest. The great thing about the pigeon, I'm sure the rat as well, but the pigeon is pretty universal. Any city you go to is going to have pigeons. So as we grow and expand, the pigeon on a ball really holds. If we go to Nashville, if we go to Miami, it doesn't matter where you go, there's always pigeons. So my wife actually designed this. So I did a shitty version of the first pigeon that was then refined by a player in our league. And then back in 2022, my wife did a whole refresh of the pigeon, which is what this one is.
I got a great idea for marketing when you guys open up in a new city.
There's like a pigeon shits, and there's like a QR code that comes out of it. It hits the windshield, and it's like scan the QR code.
I'm going to say it off the air because like it's too good. So I want you to use. I'll say it. And then when you use it, be like, oh, he mentioned that on the podcast. You got to have it where a pigeon comes to one of your fields. Let's call it Brooklyn Bridge Park, and they come and the pigeon comes and they grab a scroll. Like you're there, and you write something on a scroll and you roll it up and you put it in the pigeon's mouth, and he flies away. And then you see the pigeon flying in the air and then lands in Nashville.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And someone there grabs the scroll and it just opens it up and it says, "We're here."
Oh, I love that.
Boom!
We're gonna do that.
And then
where's Luca?
And then NY City.
Yeah.
And then NYC Footy. It comes on the screen and then it explodes and it says Nashville Footy.
Yeah, dude. I love where your head's at. I love that idea. I think we're going to do it. Luke is going to love that too. That's a great idea.
I love that.
Yeah, the carrier pigeon. We used to name leagues after famous carrier pigeons from like World War II and all these other things. Like the league would be called like the Cherami League. There's some pigeon named Cherami, I don't know, from World War II, and we did all that. But that was when we had one league and we could do anything we wanted. We were like, we did all this
Carrier
fun
pigeons
stuff.
are a devoted creature.
It's a beautiful thing. What is it? It's all doves are pigeons, but not all pigeons are doves. I think that's what it is. That's another thing. People don't realize that the dove is also part of the pigeon family.
Amen. The white pigeon, the dove.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Very peaceful.
So some people mistake this logo for the Tottenham logo. So they claim they're huge followers of the Premier League, and then why am I wearing a Tottenham logo? I said you can't be a huge follower if you think there's the Tottenham logo. But I can understand why the similarities are there.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah,
Have
they've
you
got the Oscar.
been to the new Tottenham Stadium?
No, I've only ever been to Anfield in Liverpool.
I've been to the stadium, and it is gorgeous.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah, I actually went to an NFL game there.
Oh, you did, really?
Yeah,
oh,
we
yeah,
were
because they've been doing that.
Yep. So my
last couple seasons.
I have family from the UK. So we were there in October for a wedding, and my wife and I, we have a tradition where every year we go to a new football stadium.
No shit.
So this year, when I knew we were going to be in London, I was like, let's see if any of the NFL
that's
London
awesome.
games are. And sure enough, Ravens Titans at Tottenham
Was it
Stadium.
hard to get a ticket for that?
No. We're doing this for probably 7 years now.
It's the easiest.
It wasn't easy,
Right.
but no, it wasn't hard.
Yeah.
It's never hard.
Got
Getting tickets to most sporting events is easy. You get it the day of. So like the
I
game was
see.
at 2:30.
Oh, that's
At
tough.
11 a.m. I went on
And that's when they released
StubHub.
what your tickets would be.
That's when
That's tough.
prices drop.
Oh,
That's when prices drop.
I
So we
see.
got tickets that were $400 face value for $200 a pop.
Oh,
We
wow.
were in like a club level, and we brought my son, who was a year and a half at the time, and we had two $400 face value club tickets for $400 for both.
That's incredible.
And
that's a good tip.
Yeah, you don't get a ticket for the little one. I mean, we've been doing this for years. More than once, we've bought the tickets, and mind you, we're going to other cities.
Yeah.
Minnesota, Atlanta, New Orleans, yada yada. We're buying tickets in the Uber on our way to the stadium.
That's pretty wild, because you'll get it. You've landed.
I'm doing this for
all these tips. Maybe I should be interviewing you for this podcast, getting some of this good juice.
I've interviewed a lot of people, and in many years of experience, I got a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that
especially
comes
when
out of
it
it.
comes to buying tickets for sporting
Oh, I
events.
love this idea.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I've been to.
I think that holds us back.
A buddy of mine were going to a Minnesota Timberwolves game. Literally sitting at a bar across the street, just with SeatGeek open, just refreshing, and watching like minute by minute the price is just dropping. 5 minutes before, just grabbed like insane seats.
So the
fun.
founder of SeatGeek used to be on my team, and he never cared to share any of this shit with me. Just so you know, so we know we're there.
Oh, it's great. You wait till right before, and like people will drop tickets exponentially. So I'm a Knicks season ticket holder.
Right.
This season's been great, but in years past,
Yeah, you're getting rid of them.
like I'm putting my tickets, which are, let's call it $150 face, 10 minutes before the game, I'm dropping them to $35.
Gotcha.
'Cause I'd rather get something than eat
And do
it.
they go 10 minutes before the game? Someone snatch them up? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
This is a good tip. Good strategy. I'm going to follow this. This is good stuff.
indeed. I'm here. You have my number now, so I'm
Yeah.
here as an asset for a lot of stuff.
I appreciate it.
All right, so back to footy.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go back to you. Where did it start? It didn't. Not where did NYC Footy start? Where did your love for soccer start? And when you tell me the story on where that started, did you also have a love for entrepreneurship at the same time?
Yeah, so I don't have entrepreneurship doesn't run in my. It runs in a part of my family that I didn't have access to in Egypt, actually. So my father's from Egypt, and but the rest of the family, entrepreneurship wasn't part of it. But I would say it was part of me. But I did have to learn everything the freaking hard way because there was no tutoring involved. So there's horror stories as to what stupid decisions I made along the way that got us here. But yeah, I mean, even as a kid, I was never really creating or building or trying to sell stuff. But the entrepreneurship, I think, the creative entrepreneurship heartbeat, if you will, I think was always in there. But I struggled to find the outlet for it, if you will. Soccer actually was never my love. Baseball was my love, believe it or not, growing up. I played soccer in high school. I quit my senior year. I would always sit the bench. I mean, no joke, in high school, I was like the long throw guy. I never played, but when the game was on the line and the ball was, you could do subs as much as you wanted in high school in Long Island. And so they would sub me on just to do the long throw. It'd sub me right back off. It was embarrassing. It sucked. But that was my life in soccer. But I was a multi-sport athlete. I played basketball in the winter, soccer in the fall, baseball in the spring. That was just how I did. I never really stuck to one. When I got to New York, a buddy of mine from UVA, I went to University of Virginia, a buddy of mine was like, hey, do you want to join this rec soccer league with me? And I didn't even know what it was, didn't know it existed, but I was like, sure, I'll go out. Maybe it's a way of meeting some people. Played one game. I injured someone in my very first game, my own teammate. I kicked the ball so hard right in her face. She stopped playing soccer.
That was my next question. So it was one of the unisex leagues, like New York Social Sports?
It was...
Zog?
Damn. It was... Hey, G. What was that first league we played in where we met? Was that Zog? It wasn't. We played at Asphalt Green, didn't we? Not
Zog and Urban, right?
Urban.
Urban came after, but we met.
Might have been an Asphalt Green league.
It might have been an Asphalt. We played at Asphalt Green for
Asphalt
sure.
Green had
we
their
wore
own
these. We had
leagues,
these green kits. I remember in my very first game I kicked. Like I hadn't played soccer since high school, and then I came back. It was 25 at this point, so 7 years. So I was coming back, and I was like, oh my god, what am I going to do here? And so I just kicked the ball as hard as I could, trying to shoot it, and I hit my own teammate right in the face. I think she never played again. And I was like, this is a bad introduction to soccer. But I totally fell in love with it. I don't know what it was, but there was just something about, I don't know. And then you go to the bar afterwards and drink, and so you were being athletic again because, see, I'm a team sport athlete. I'm not really a individual sport athlete. I don't know golf for shit. I played a little bit of tennis, but there is no infrastructure for team sports really if you don't go to college to play. Certainly not after college unless you're a pro. I missed that a lot. So being brought back into that environment was just so much fun. That competitive fire is still there. It's all a mixed gender league.
Dude, the camaraderie in itself releases endorphins throughout your body. So
Dude, absolutely.
The whole 2.5 hour process of you getting to the game, playing, hanging afterwards.
It's all positive.
It's all positive.
Yeah, it's true. It's all positive. The whole thing is you stop. You don't worry about work the whole time. You don't worry about struggles in the relationships, whatever it might be. You are prepping for the game. You're at the game. You're competitive after the game. You're drinking, having a good time. And that became an addiction, for whatever it's worth. If something can become an addiction in that capacity.
100%.
And yeah, and so that's kind of how it started. Gio, I was just calling out, was part of that.
Can it become an addiction? It became an addiction so much you created your business out of it. This is yes,
no, it's true. Well, that's what.
Yeah, it's a positive addiction.
It was a very positive addiction. It came from we played in that capacity for like 5 years. Not 5 years. Probably. When did we start this? 2011. So I would have been 29. So 4 years, 3 or 4 years. I started 25, and then we played together. Then we moved out to Chinatown. We were playing at Riverbank. See, back in the day. Now New Yorkers, look. Something's changed, but entitlement's gone up in this city. I'll say that much. Back in the day, like, it didn't matter where your game was. You were hoofing it. You know, we were playing in Riverbank, and it was like an hour commute, but you did it. Now, like, if we have leagues all over Manhattan. Everywhere there's a pitch to play soccer, and NYC Footy's at. And so if you have to, like, consolidate a league and say, hey, you're moving from 96th Street down to 54th on the west side, forget it. Some people are like, not doing it. If I'm not walking out of my house and tripping and falling into my park, I'm not going. That's a big change we noticed over the past 10 years of this business. But anyway, started that, played in Lower East Side together. We moved. Eventually, everyone settled in Lower East Side.
Do you think any part of that is quality of field, or it's just people are lazy?
I think the majority of it is people are so conditioned by convenience now, more and more. Not just like walk out your door and have what you want, but everything is more convenient. In the past 15 years, everything has become so convenient that to inconvenience yourself is now no longer really something that people have conditioned themselves on, and this is part of it. You know, people are like, I'll take a refund. I don't want to have to get on the subway to go to a soccer field. You know, that was like, back in the day, it was like, get on the subway. Dude, we would like walk 20 minutes, get on the subway, take the bus, find ourselves at Riverbank. But, well, that's not fair. Riverbank, we did take the subway eventually. But anyway, we eventually all settled in Lower East Side for whatever reason. I don't know who found that league. We met on a free agent team. That's the whole thing. Like, we started footy. The three of us started footy. We met on this team together, like a free agent team. That's the power of meeting people in New York. You never know what hatches from that. And then we came up with the idea. We spun up our first league. Oh, sorry. We want to hark back to my love of soccer. So didn't have a love of soccer, but fell in love with soccer at the age of 25 when I was introduced to a rec league. And then I became addicted and obsessed with it. And I had started my first business in 2006, which was in the tech world. So I had started cutting my teeth on entrepreneurship. And once you start cutting your teeth, you start seeing everything as like something that needs fixing. You know it as well. Like you see this could be better, this could be better, this could be better.
Well, that goes hand in hand with the whole convenience thing, with that being so prevalent year after year after year of the world just becoming that much more convenience. Now, some people might look at it as convenient. Some people might look at it as lazy, and just creating apps and creating different capabilities for people to not have to do things.
That's definitely happening. And humans are the great thing about human condition is very adaptable creatures. The problem with the human condition is you forget where you came from. You know, like that's, people love to say they don't forget where they came from. Most people forget where they came from. You know, I think it's like most people forget that.
Oh yeah, and that's why I love the time of the day where I'm able to just put my phone down for an hour and a half in the middle of I'm not talking about 10, 11 p.m. I'm talking about 6 to 7 p.m.
Good for you.
Just putting the phone away and being present with the family and knowing that whatever's coming in right now,
so you're disciplined with that.
Matter.
I'm so bad at that.
I
got to work on that.
Right, but you do. It's the feel of doing it is amazing.
It is.
And also, what's more important, looking at a push notification or a call that's coming in, or feeding my son?
That's what I'm saying. That's why people forget where they come from. It's like you forget, the addictive nature of these things doesn't let your brain process reason. You know, you're just like, I got to check my email instead of sitting at the dinner table.
Well, you say family. Email. Most people, it's got to check
Instagram
social media.
Yeah, mine's email. I'm like an email addict. I'm constantly on my email.
Well, because you're addicted to your business.
I'm pretty much addicted to the business, yeah. Exactly.
So what was the first thing that really got you going when you started in the rec league?
I think it was seeing an opportunity to run a rec league the way it was seeing an opportunity to run a rec league the way I would want to experience a rec league, which was the professional experience at the recreational level. Real jerseys, nice jerseys with a sponsor on the front. I was a Liverpool fan. I became a Liverpool fan almost the same time I started playing soccer again in the city. So I was waking up every morning watching. I was like, why don't we have like why are we wearing these Gildan shirts with this awful design on it? And, some of them would have like all these bars logos on the back. I was like, this is not a professional experience. The websites were dated. No stats were being kept. The photos were dated. How can we just level up this? And so the first thing we did is like we started sourcing jerseys, got real jerseys made. We got like Brooklyn Magazine, Elle Magazine is our first sponsors, apartments.com, one of our first sponsors, Whiskey Tavern, Whiskey Brooklyn. These were sponsors early on. So we had that. We built out a nice website. We took these beautiful photos. We took these really beautiful team photos. That was a big part of our growth early on is we took these beautiful team photos and funny team photos. People would take a funny team photo and it would spread on social pretty fast. That's when I knew there was an opportunity there. But I'll say this much. We did not, none of us, myself included, did not start NYC Footy genuinely saying this. And this isn't going to inspire many people, but not to be a business. It was like, the league we're playing in now, let's just start our own. We can play for free, but we'll have that league experience be what we want. We did not at all ever anticipate what it became.
Bro,
Never.
you know what Uber started up as?
I don't know if I know what
Uber was just a private black car service for them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this was in Silicon Valley. They just wanted a private. They were taking so many black cars. They were like, what if we just had like an easier way for all of us to get a black car?
No shit.
And then it elevated from there. And
that's
now,
thing.
what's Uber?
Well, so that's, I don't, it's tough to give, aspiring entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs in general, like advice that really sticks because everyone's experience is just so different. But I think one of the things that does stick is if there's something that you're really drawn to do it, and then it will evolve into something else. I was just on the phone with my brother, he's a massive pickleball fanatic. Lives in Florida now, and he's a coach and does pickleball coaching, and he's got a couple of business ideas. And I was like, look, the coaching's really working. It's taken off. Everybody wants you as a coach. Lean into that because that's going to just naturally evolve into this other animal you're not going to recognize one day. Well, Footy did that. Footy became this monster, and now it's like a rec league that's never even existed in the entire world at this point. It's just so complex. World might be a little bit hyperbolic, but definitely in the U.S. It's the largest league in the U.S. and I think it's reached some sort of scale that previously rec league couldn't hit because they're so complex. How do you do it? How do you?
What would you say is the biggest differentiator between NYC Footy and everyone else out there?
I would say customer service is a massive part of that. Really like the recreational leagues in this country seem to have a very dated approach to almost everything. They don't have like email lists. They don't prioritize social. They don't prioritize customer service. I mean, most leagues, when you hear back, it's like, I asked a question, I haven't heard back. It's been weeks. Our approach was like, everyone gets a response within 24 hours. And that type of attention, I think people were drawn to that. But that's one. But the other was definitely when you look at NYC Footy as a rec league, it looks like a professional outfit. You go to, like, we have strict rules. If you show up without an NYC Footy jersey, you give the other team a goal. Because I don't want someone hanging on a fence looking at an NYC Footy game and thinking that's just like an organized pickup. No, I want someone hanging on the fence watching that game and saying, damn, this is like a real league. What's going on here? And ask questions. Is this a real league? What is this? No, it's NYC Footy. You look online, you see it's real, you register. When you look at a lot of leagues, it looks like organized pickup. We have an internal chain. I text you all the time when I look at like other leagues post social photos of themselves trying to promote their league, but every player's wearing a different jersey. One's wearing a United jersey, one's wearing an NYC Footy jersey, one's wearing their actual jersey, one's just wearing a red T-shirt. It's like that. How do you let that happen? Like that's not where's the? And I'm not saying these are bad entrepreneurs. They might just not give a shit. They're just like that. This is maybe not their full-time thing. They're just like, look, I just want to organize something great for people to play in, and I want it to be fun. We've evolved into something that's like it's like a manic obsession. You got to be the best. And with a business at this scale, this many like points of failure, it's really hard. There's probably a lot of people in this league that would be like, Footy's got a lot to work on. And we definitely do. It's like, the lights turned off in the middle of the game. The referees need better training. The jerseys
are these things
late.
that people have told you?
Yeah. People will tell you. But if you've got great customer service and you make sure your customers feel heard, usually that feedback is delivered in a very understanding fashion.
Where did you get that from? Because where did you get the knowledge that customer service is of utmost importance? Who told you that customer service is of utmost importance?
Nobody. It's because this is, for me, this is how I want to be treated as a customer. So we've all had so many customer service experiences in our life. If you're paying attention to it and you remember it, you learn how to be great at customer service because you remember the ones that were amazing and you definitely remember the ones that sucked. You know what it's like for a company to not be honest with you. You know what it's like when a company runs promotions, but their promotions are, they'll say something like, this is a bad example. I'll take a step back. When you're treated well, you also know when you're treated poorly, but you also know when businesses lie to you. So if something happens, if something happens wrong, let's say you weren't able to register. Some businesses might say something like, "Oh, there was so much demand for our business that the site wasn't letting people register." I know that's a bullshit lie. This leagues will do this stuff. It's like your recreational soccer league's not crashing, but you'll see them do stuff like that. So when you're being lied to. For us, whenever something happens wrong, we tell everybody exactly what led to that point of failure, and we were honest with everybody. This is where we went wrong. This is what we were hoping would happen. We relied on it. It didn't happen. X happened as a result. You're inconvenienced as a result. We apologize. So we've always had this really explicit transparency with how we operate the business. And that's because as a customer, that's what I want to experience. I will buy from you again if you fail badly with me, but you're really honest as to where the point of failure happened. I will 100% stay with you as a customer.
You label the issue. You get empathetic with how they're feeling about the issue, and then you give them a resolution as to how you're going to do better.
And then they trust that you will do better.
Absolutely.
If they're like, wow, they owned their mistake. You can't. Here's another maybe little lesson for entrepreneurs: is you can't learn from mistakes if you refuse to own them. You can't. You won't even log that information in your brain, so you'll repeat it. You'll repeat those same failures. If you own the mistake, and a great way of owning a mistake is to announce it publicly. Now you have to really own it because you just told everybody what you did. Now you're on the hook to repair it, and they know you're on the hook to repair it, and therefore they will trust that you'll do it. And we'll still fuck up. We'll still make some mistakes, but I think our league. Look, the biggest issues we have with people in our league are first-time players that don't know the culture of the league. They haven't gotten that transparent email from us yet. They don't know how we operate. So when something happens bad to a first-time player, let's say we push the season out a week for whatever reason. There's all sorts of reasons. And then we push it out again. And then we run the schedule, but we actually accidentally ran double headers when we shouldn't have. Let's just say these things happen. The first-time players can be like, man, this league does not have their shit together. They're all over the place.
That's how I would think.
That's exactly how you would think.
1,000%.
Yeah, you'd be like, what's going on here? Now, if you've been in the league for a while, you'll know what likely went wrong that's caused these changes. You'll know what we're going through as a small team and the complex. Because we tell people often how complex it is to manage this many leagues, how difficult it is to run a 10-team schedule on only 2 fields for 3 hours. It's also complex. We tell people this enough. So when you've been with us long enough as a customer, you're just so much more forgiving for when things go wrong.
Well, because then they've also experienced the great, not just experienced the good.
Right.
They've experienced the great.
Yeah.
So it's easy to understand when something doesn't go right, when they're like, well, 95% of the time, this is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think another little trick is, and we didn't have this in my other businesses. My previous business, both of them. One I sold in 2021, which really, we might get into it, but that was an interesting experience because COVID killed that business while at the same time, exploding the other business. It's like I saw one business completely get crushed and the other one just go in the other direction at the same moment.
Of your businesses.
Yeah, and it was an HR business. So
let's just talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's just get right into that.
Okay. So
what led up to you not just going 100% into footy and having another business?
Yeah, so footy, as I mentioned, there was no intent of it becoming a business, and I don't want to ever. It's almost like telling a child, I had no intent, didn't intend on you being a grown-up, polished young woman, and that's a hurtful thing, and I don't ever want to hurt. I do see my business as a child. I think sure you do as well. But that was the reality. It was like, we just want to play for free and have this experience. But it grew and grew and grew. But it had grown steadily for years. But it was managed pretty effectively by one meeting a week with me, G, and the third founder who's not as active anymore. We would meet once a week for coffee and breakfast, and we would sort of map out what needed to be done that week. And we could manage the whole league that way. We didn't have any employees. All of us were part-time. I was running my own technology company. Gerardo was running a record label. Joe, as I mentioned, was running the hardware store. And for the most part, we could cover what we needed for the league. One of us, I took the brunt of it on, but I had the most flexible job. So I was able to take on the brunt of that work and sort of we got by.
At any point, did you resent them because you were doing as much more work?
Yeah, we went through that as a family. I say now because we're so close, but yeah, we went through those periods. But one of the things that makes, especially G, who's now he's full time with me here, is we've had very difficult conversations multiple times, and where, I've expressed that resentment, I've expressed certain things, and we have gotten through it and become stronger.
What was the biggest thing you learned going into that conversation and coming out of it?
You learn something, I think, hopefully about yourself, but you definitely learn something about others. I think you go into those conversations always fearing what the other person's how they're going to react. So I want to express the way I feel, but they might not feel that way. They might feel they're doing more work than I am. They might tell me to go fuck myself. They might, who knows? But you learn different things about different people. Like what I learned about G is he's an extremely understanding person. He will be like, all right, like I hear what you're saying, and how do you want to resolve it? I'll support you on this. And G's always supported, the proposed resolution. He's made it easy. You learn about yourself something of, well, you should hopefully learn something about yourself of, maybe you're not seeing the full picture. You might learn that, of course, if they share, well, you missed X, Y, or Z. Or you learn, which maybe is the biggest one, is there was a point in time where I thought, okay, they're not going to be able to be my partners and I can't grow my business with these people. And then I learned with G, no, I can definitely grow my business with this person.
Well, it's like a relationship. It's like even in the first 1 to 4 years of whatever it is, you have a relationship, and then you don't start seeing eye to eye on things. A lot of people will abort. Versus, let's see if we can get through this, call it couples therapy.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get through this, and if we can, then we're that much stronger for it.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like you and G stuck together, you got over it, and you're that much better for it.
No question.
Because, your company probably, after that conversation, in the next couple of years, probably 2 to 5x.
Yeah, it's been about 5x, exactly, yeah. I think if G was my personality, it would have never worked. You know what I mean? I just think it would have been like, oh, fuck you, goodbye. G is, he doesn't love, I think, the confrontation. So he's like, he also sees the best in everybody. I'm the type of person that jumps to conclusions about everybody's, like, what their motives are. And so, and you get your virtue advice out of all of it. I am definitely the trailblazer. What's new? What's next? What's new? What's next? Let's do this. And that would build some resentment sometimes. It was like, why am I always the one like coming up with new ideas and blah, blah, blah. Then you learn over time that that's just not everybody. So how can you lean into someone else's strengths? And the other thing that you learn about yourself is that if you're too overbearing, which I can be, you don't even let other people express themselves creatively because they're afraid. Oh, I'm going to do it wrong. I'm not going to do it the way he wants it. And so they don't even find their lane or their downstream, if you will.
Well, that's part of being a good leader. Like you could be the leader, but still have equal partners, but someone's got to be the alpha.
Yeah.
And you could use so many soccer comparisons there. The striker's not going to play goalie.
Right.
The defender's not going to play striker. Everybody's got to play their position.
Yeah.
And if you know your position, I mean, you see some of the top guys coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Because they know when it hits 60 minutes, They're
That's
going.
their time.
They're going. That last 30 minutes plus extra, that's their time to shine. And those guys might end up leading the league in goals, but they're only playing like 30% of the game.
Yeah. No, I actually think about. So the HR company that it was running, it was an HR technology company
Called
Uncubed. We sold it in
Mazel tov.
2021. Thank you. I mean, it was a little bit of a depressed sale, but we were ready to rock and roll, my co-founder and I. But we learned one of the things that I wrote an email, often to, all these HR people. It was like a daily, weekly email. And I would reference the parallels between building a soccer team and building a team in business all the time. You really do see it. And also the other side of it is like, the importance of the coach. The coach's vision, you might not have a shared vision with the coach, but if you don't buy into it, it's definitely not going to work.
Well, that's why the best coaches are the best coaches. This week we had the NCAA championship. Hurley is probably going to get NBA money thrown at him up the wazoo because of what he's done in UConn and what, to piggyback on what you're saying, players want to play for him. Players want to listen to him. Yeah. And we're talking about with this, we're talking about kids who generally don't want to listen.
They don't want to listen. They want their own way. Yeah, their own way of the highway. Yeah, exactly.
This guy, back-to-back years, has won every single tournament game by 13 points or more.
Yeah, he's just dominating.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's brought something completely different to the table.
Yeah, and like it's not like he's getting the top talent. He is, right. But it's not like his kids aren't of equal talent to a lot of schools around the country.
Totally, yeah. Well, you see that at every sport. In every sport, like what can the coach bring out? Not only bring out the best in someone. Most athletes probably don't ever really hit the best that they're totally capable of. They don't even know what their best is. They might think their best is here, but it's actually way higher. And sometimes it takes a coach to see that, and sometimes it's moving you in the right position. I think I got a lot of help from my brother, who was my career coach during some of this process. And he spent some time talking to my co-founder as well. And he'd come back to me, and he was sort of helping him understand, like, look, you need to learn how to hit Tarek head on. And Tarek, you need to learn how to let someone else express themselves creatively. And yeah, there was like a switch that happened, and boom, yeah, we are on what am I trying to say? Like the synergy is so strong right now. He operates one full side of the business, I operate the other side of the business, and we're just humming. And we do a lot of stuff together. We own a house together upstate. We own 2 houses together upstate.
Very cool.
We started this Paloma brand together, him and I, and yeah, so much of that was that we talk through our challenges together. Like, we are not afraid to address each other with things that are bothering us anymore.
When was it that you had this big confrontation with your, at the time, partners?
We've had so many, actually. I remember the first one was like ages ago, before there was even like a business there. It was like, hey, this league that we all play for free in, why do I feel like I'm doing everything? We went and met this.
Well, that's where,
that was the time I was the most afraid.
Right. Well, that's where the biggest strife comes from, is because there's no ROI.
Right.
You're literally putting so much into it, and there's no ROI in sight. So you're like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah. Why am I running around like this? Yeah. I mean, totally.
Were you thinking about packing it up and
me never.
Away?
Me never. One of
never.
us. Not,
there was never
not,
one.
There
point
was another
you thought about
partner.
Packing it away.
For me, never. No. I don't know why. I mean, yeah, you would think, but no, there was never that time. There was others. There was actually, we began with 5 partners. One we bought out early. He wasn't doing anything, but he's a lovely human being. He didn't have the same passion we did. Another stole a shitload of money from us and went to the Philippines. That's a crazy part of the story. And
how much money did he steal?
About $100,000.
And
yeah.
Out of
over the course of 3 years.
Out of the company account. Wait, how did I?
I'll tell. Yeah, I mean,
please do.
Yeah,
some people might pussyfoot around it, but I want to know, how did he, in a 3-year span? Because you hear $100,000, and I would think, all right, he jacked it and
rolled,
hopped on a plane
before we could snatch it.
Yeah.
No, it was over 3. So it's probably probably more like 65,000. 35,000 was what I think he would have earned, because he had taken. There was a period in time where, like, I was running my business. It was taking so much of my time. Uncubed was just. It was a startup also. It was a HR technology company. It was taking so much of my time. That was going to be my future. I was like, not that I loved HR, but I thought we were onto something there. And I was like, this is a tech company. We're going to get these tech company economics. That's where we're going after it. And footy's like this side thing. Let's just make it work. But my superpower, if you will, is multitasking. So I was like, I can do. Part of the reason why I always sort of led the effort with footy.
Thank God for the iPhone.
So good. Yeah, absolutely. Like, just being able to, like, task switch quickly and like, that is something I can do. If I have one superpower, it would be that one. So I was able to kind of do all these things at the same time. But Uncubed was really my, where I felt my future was coming out of that. And then I was so embedded in tech world. I knew everyone. That's why the founder SeatGeek was on my team. All these founders were on my team. We had a lot of tech companies in the league as well. So was building, Uncubed sort of simultaneously, and we were footy was always a little side project for all of us. So we were always a little bit asleep at the wheel, if you know what I mean. Like we weren't really paying attention to the cash. When cash came into footy, we all saw it as a bonus. It was like, oh, here, we can each take a small amount of money, and then otherwise let's just throw a party. We were always like, we were taking money at the ATM, buying rounds of drinks for people after games. This is just how we ran the league for a while. We didn't have any organization. Our accountants then are still our accountants now. They struggled to grow with us, our accountants, because they were so used to accounting for just a shit show. And just like, okay, this is just the shit. Once we got our stuff super buttoned up, they almost didn't even know how to handle it. They're like, whoa, wait, you have that stuff buttoned up? We're not even there yet. But that's the way it was. That's the way it was with footy for a while. So this fella who was part of the business for a while and one of our closest friends and part of that original free agent team,
what an asshole.
I want to say that, but I also, this is not like me to say what I'm about to say. I'm more like this fucking piece of shit. Something must have been going on in that dude's life to make him take that step. Yeah. And what he did is eventually we said, like, hey, one of us needs to take the reins a little bit more than another. Hey, can you do this? Because he was a fashion designer. No one knew a lot. That's the thing. He's one of our best friends, and we all didn't know a lot about him. But we don't know who was he working for. He just seemed to have the most flexible schedule. So he's like, I'll do it. So we sort of like said, okay, we'll give you like a small salary, this $35,000 salary. We'll give you a small salary. That's what the business could effectively afford. But you take the lead on everything. You're kind of guaranteed that. And whatever's left over, we'll split it the rest of us. And, early on, we saw he was just doing a terrible job. We sort of caught on to that, doing a terrible job. And jerseys were coming in so late. People weren't getting their jerseys till like week 4. And it's like, holy cow. And this one day I was like, look, I got to audit. I'm doing like an audit. And I went to this restaurant. It's not there anymore in Cobble Hill. It's called 61 Local. I was like, I'm going to perch up here and I'm going to audit this shit. It's 2016. And I was like, my goodness, I just didn't audit everything. Why are we missing $13,000? I went through it and I was like, oh, these 6 teams haven't paid. I pinged all of them and said, hey, you guys, we're in the middle of the season here. You got to pay up. They're like, we did pay. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, look, and they sent me their proof of payment to our PayPal. Turns out this guy opened a separate PayPal account with the same name, but like removed a space,
He was internal fishing.
And he was sending everybody invoices from his own little PayPal account. Not everybody. He was picking and choosing, so it was tougher to find,
Like NYC Footy, but it was like an IE instead of a Y.
No, it was a Y. I think it was like NYC Footy, no space, whereas ours was NYC Footy space Foot, NYC space Footy. And when he sent me that, that's when that moment of dread hits you. Not that we've lost money. It's like, is one of my best friends stealing from us? Yeah. And then I called G and Joe, and I was like, hey, I got to talk to you guys. I think this dude's been stealing from us. I won't say his name, but it's like, I think this guy's been stealing from us. And I got to now go back and see how much.
I respect that, though. You don't even want to shame him on the show.
No, I'm not going to, because I don't, this guy's he comes from a country and a place where money and power is really important. And I think his family and they kind of have a semi-elite status. And I think he struggled to like live up to that.
Is his last name Pacquiao?
It's funny you say that. They are from the same country.
Yeah.
They are from the same country. But and I think that pressure was really tough on him. And I think he had gotten married, which we didn't know, but it happened. I also learned he was having a kid, which we didn't know. And I think, but anyway.
This is like he's got a whole other family. Maybe he was running a whole other soccer league at the same time.
I mean, he effectively was with the way that PayPal was showing. But
man.
Yeah, but it had been happening over 3 years, very little bits. So he knew we were asleep at the wheel. We weren't paying attention to the finances. But like what happens when people steal is you get more courageous. That's like a whole thing. That's why people get caught. You start getting cocky, as they say. Taking $13,000 in a single season was a sizable percentage of what was going on at the time. And so, yeah, we called him out and addressed it. He owned up to it. But he had already purged his whole, by the time we got access to his PayPal, he had purged it all. So there was no money there. And ended up being a good thing for us. I think the reason we weren't so upset is because under his leadership, the business was struggling. And we knew it. We knew we had to take it back, but we didn't know how to have that conversation. It was like, oh, he's one of our best friends. How do we tell him he's doing a shitty job and he's got to step out of it? Well, made our life way easier. He just made our life way easier. But after auditing the past 3 years and realizing that he had abjectly stolen $65,000, and the $35,000 that he was supposed to be paid, he was paid, and I consider that part of the theft. Really.
100%.
I consider that part of the theft. So Yeah, and then he took off, and then we had to rebuild, sort of thing.
What was
we
the
rebuilt.
biggest
That's
thing?
when we knew we have a real business here, and we got to
Yeah.
rebuild this, and we got to do it right. And then that was really the start of phase 2 of the business.
So
2016.
so when you had $100,000 stolen from a friend of yours who you started the business with, that was the catalyst that really took
100%.
NYC Footy to the next step.
100%. That was
next
like
step,
that
the
first
next
main
level.
that first main catalyst was that we got a real business here. We got to fucking get our shit together, everybody. We got to pay attention to the finances. We cannot let this happen again. And we started paying attention to it. Still a very small business at the time. Then we broke into Manhattan in 2018. We started in 2011. In 2018 is when we got our first permits into Manhattan. That was, we got a big rise then in terms of the business.
When did the sponsorships come into play, and when did they start growing?
We always had sponsorships, but it was always barter. Like Brooklyn Magazine was like, put us on your jerseys and we'll give you free ad space. We did
Okay,
stuff
but
like
not
that.
for nothing. For a company as small as you were, that was fine.
Dude,
It
it was more about the look.
that
Sorry,
was
I
totally fine.
Just got a can opening in the
There we go. Like
can
I
opening
have,
in the soundbite.
I have sponsors, whether it's for my real estate stuff or for the podcast, which I'm not as big as I could command dollars.
Sure.
But I get product, I get services.
Right. And you get that external image of like, oh, there's people sponsoring this thing.
Yep,
Yeah.
because people are.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so that was a big play. So, of course, year in and year out, we get more and more money from sponsors for those reasons. And also, it's like, oh, wow, all these people have sponsored you before. You can then market, oh, Brooklyn Magazine's a sponsor. That's what we used to do. Now we can say, like, Diageo's a sponsor.
Is Diageo a sponsor?
Diageo's a sponsor. Waterloo's a sponsor.
Which brand of Diageo?
Old Par?
Cool. That's a Scotch?
It's a Scotch, yeah. They target that towards the Latin community.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They have a
so
beautiful bottle.
Beautiful bottle, yeah, exactly. So that's one of the unique sponsorships we have, where instead of them being on teams across all our leagues, they're on every team in Astoria because they want that demographic. So we did a custom tournament with them called Copa Old Par. We've done, and it just grows and grows. We know where it's headed.
When you do something like that, will they have an activation where they do sampling?
Yeah, exactly. That's what they did. So we did a Copa Old Par at this place in Astoria, and they had sampling there. The champs got bottles. All the jerseys had the kind of Old Par shaped logo on it, which was cool. They're good partners. We're just talking to them now about doing something bigger in 2025. So we'll see. They want to annualize the tournament and then do some stuff. So we would love to activate a tournament every month with a sponsor.
If there's one sponsor who could be a part of your business, who would it be? Not one. If there was one sponsor that you would ideally want, your like crown jewel sponsor, who would it be?
I don't have one off the top of my head. My brain, for some reason, doesn't go there. But there's a sponsor that hasn't engaged with us, which I just think is so obvious, which is Hypervolt, Theragun. It's like, how obvious could it be?
Yep.
With 35,000 players, they're all like, look at the earnings. I've got, the report of the demographics of these people. We have people actively playing a sport. You're like, not only can you sponsor, but your product is going to be in their hands after every game. People are going to see people with a Theragun or the Hypervolt, and then they're going to want it. That's what happened to us. We saw a guy after a game with a Theragun. I went out and bought a Hypervolt because I saw it, and then that's when it clicked in. They don't even engage. EA Sports, probably another good one, something like that. They've been more active with like kind of out of home live activations. I think that would be a cool brand for us.
You guys ever chat with Steve Nash and his company?
Yeah. So we do quite a bit with, I don't want to say quite a bit, but they do a tournament every year in New York, and so we support them with that. We're doing a big tournament in July called the Cup of Dreams. There's a mall in New Jersey called the American Dream Mall. It's this mega mall. Yeah, it's one of these, the second largest mall in the country. We're turning their hockey rink into a soccer pitch and doing a five-a-side, 4 fields, 5-a-side tournament in the summer called the Cup of Dreams. This is a build-up to the World Cup because they sit right next to MetLife Stadium where the final is going to be. So they called us. They want to activate soccer there. They're like, look, the soccer world is going to descend on us, on this mall in particular. We need to be soccer ready. Can you all start activating something? I said, well, let's start with a tournament. So I called Steve Nash's company up and said, can you all help bring some celebrity flair to this thing? Steve, so it's going to be like Steve Nash. We don't know if they're going to do it yet, but they're totally into it. I said, we'll donate to the Steve Nash Foundation. We'll do it. So we're hopefully going to work with them on it. So we'll bring the players and everything, but they can maybe bring a halftime show where Steve Nash and his buddies come out and do something cool. I played against Steve Nash a few times, and he has legitimately done some dirty stuff to me. I mean, he is not dirty in the sense that he elbowed me. dirty in the sense that like you did me wrong, Steve, by like doing a rainbow over my head. Like he is that skilled. He's just such an insane athlete. But yeah, there's a time I thought I had him in the corner and he just flicked the ball into one foot, did a sombrero over me, and just went around me. And I was like, this guy, you just did me dirty, Steve. Yeah, he's good. He is. And then they won 3-1 and he scored all 3 of their goals. He's just, and he's simultaneously the nicest human being on the freaking planet.
I love that.
I remember when my daughter met him for the first time, she was like 4 and she is really shy with meeting new people, really, really, really struggles. And I said, hey, Kalila, let's take a photo with Steve, and I'll be on the left side and she'll be on the right. And his energy is so welcoming. She went right up, sat right next to him, smiled. And I'm sitting there like, what on earth? This guy's energy is just so different than, everybody else. And I love him to death. But yeah, hopefully we do more with Steve. He's a big soccer fanatic. He just moved back to Arizona, so he's not in New York as much as he was. But I'm hoping that we'll end up doing some stuff with them. If it's not this tournament, then maybe hopefully something else.
I love that. What are you reading right now?
I just wrapped up an interesting series called like the Harry Clifton Chronicles. That was like
fiction
reading I really needed because the nonfiction stuff is just
How often
so
are you
boring.
Doing fiction versus nonfiction?
I actually usually reading simultaneously.
Got it.
I'm usually reading a fiction, nonfiction simultaneously.
Both paperback or one paperback, one Audible?
One paperback, one Kindle. That's usually what I'm doing. But I'm not currently actively reading anything because I've been in the middle of a move I think I was telling you about. And when shit like that happens, I just turn everything off. But I'm reading the fiction book that I'll pick back up again. It's about the aftermath of that battle when the 300 Spartans faced the Persian army. It's like the aftermath of that, and one of the not soldiers in the Spartan army, but kind of like an assistant was captured by the Persian army, and it's his story. He's like reciting the story of how the Spartans became to the Persian king. So I'm reading that as a fiction. And nonfiction that I got that I'm going to open soon, but I haven't yet, is oh my goodness, it is not The Power Broker. Some 12 Laws of Power, something like that.
12 Laws of Power, yeah.
Is that what it's called? I think it's called the 12 Laws of Power. So that's the one that I got, and I'll probably start reading that one soon.
I could be butchering this. It might be by Robert Greene.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly who it's by. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Or if it's not by him, I just bought a book by Robert Greene. I'm assuming that's the one.
So what is one book that you would recommend to anybody?
Fiction, definitely The Count of Monte Cristo Unabridged. The Count of Monte Cristo Unabridged is my absolute favorite fiction, although it's based on a true story, but fiction. And it is a beast. It's like 1,600 pages, and I've read it 8 times. Something about that story I go back to, and I think part of the reason I recommend it is the story's fantastic. It's a story about revenge. So there's some childhood stuff there probably that makes that such an interesting read for me. I don't know what it is, but he has such command of the English language, and that's what I aspire towards so much. When I read that book, I feel like I get stronger and stronger at my ability to win an argument because he is just such a master of the English language, and I'm always like taking notes and writing stuff down because of it. Nonfiction, I hate nonfiction books. I really do. I know I should recommend them.
Forget about it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Count of Monte Cristo,
Count of
not
Monte
for
Cristo.
nothing. Because you were about to say nonfiction, because you're like, all right, we're on the self-starter show, so I should recommend a book that's like a self-help book. Mm-hmm. The Count of Monte Cristo is that.
For me, it is. Yeah.
It is that.
Yeah, the Count of Monte
Cristo
you learn
from
is
that.
I learned from it. I have learned how to. I have people. G will even tell you. My writing is extremely strong, and when someone comes at us hot, it could be for a lawsuit, doesn't matter. I have such command of
ChatGPT.
And I will leverage it at times. I actually just leveraged it this week for the full time. But I take so much time to craft a response where I know the person on the other end cannot respond back, and years of focusing on that, and become so good at it. And I attribute so much of that to that Count of Monte Cristo book, because of just how he speaks and crafts an argument that there is no response to the. Part of crafting an argument is knowing what they're likely to say back and beating them to it with your, how you're going to write it. But I did just leverage ChatGPT for a legal letter we have to send so one of the challenges of the NYC Footy League is getting permits. And the New York City Parks Department is both wonderful and diabolical at the same time. Like, the staff there works their asses off, and they are understaffed. But the system and the processes, in my opinion, lead to the type of dysfunction that makes their jobs harder. And I think they know it too, but when you're in a government entity, it's just so hard to change. But then there's these separate other entities. Like Roosevelt Island has their own, and New York State has parks like Riverbank, and Gantry is run by New York State. So then you have Brooklyn Bridge Park, which is run by the Brooklyn Bridge Park Conservancy. It's a totally separate thing. Pier 40, which is like the mecca of soccer in Manhattan, that's run by Hudson River Park Conservancy. So
Hudson River Park is a monster.
It's a beast. Yeah, it's a beast. They all have similar challenges, but like, we're about to write a legal letter. We are writing one. I've written it with the help of ChatGPT. I told my lawyer, and I said, look, I'm going to write this letter, and can you then, put it on the letterhead, and can we, we got to mail this certified to the board of this organization, because they have very suspect permitting practices. They're very inconsistent. The way they communicate with the public is diabolically insulting. Like, talk about representing community interests. No appreciation for that at all. And I was like, I've tried 2 years to talk to this organization in a way that would help them understand the importance of their role. And after that, I was like, now we're going brute force. Now we're writing a letter to the board. So I wrote it and then sent it to ChatGPT to legalize it. And I sent it to my lawyer, and he's like, damn, dude, I mean, I didn't know you were this good of a writer. That's what he says to me. I didn't know you were this good of a writer, but then I realized you went to UVA, and I was like, I didn't write it, dude. I was like, I
wrote the skeleton for it.
Yeah, I prompted it well, but ChatGPT put that together, and he's like, really? He's like, man, I gotta start using this thing. I was like, you do. Everyone can do better at their jobs. I think anyone that runs from it, you'll be overrun by it. But anyone that doesn't run from it, you will be better at whatever it is. If you're a writer and you're afraid that people are going to write all their blogs with it, be the writer that leverages it to write way more blogs than you could ever write before, and then you'll own it. So that's my approach to it, at least.
I leverage ChatGPT a lot.
I do too. I leverage it for data analysis all the time. We'll upload our data set and be like, hey, I need to learn like how many beginners registered last season that didn't register this season, and it tells me, and it's like, all right, good. I got to email those people and ask them what happened.
So good.
Oh, it's so powerful. Yeah, especially for a business I was mentioning earlier that like you got to squeeze your margins.
So, what do the next 6 months look like for NYC Footy?
So, this Paloma brand launch was a big deal. So, partnered with this brand Paloma, which is a new sportswear brand, to create these new amazing jerseys.
When did you garnish that partnership?
Well, it was sort of hatched by G and myself as well, because we're involved with both companies.
Garnish. Garnish is like in a drink. When did you garner?
I've heard garnish. I would have said it that way before, but maybe that's not the right way of saying it.
No, I
garner, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I tend to create words.
I do it also.
I have my cousin who I'll call her, and she'll write. She has a list of words that I've created, and I will use them again and again because they sound great.
My college application to UVA asked what your favorite word is, and it was a word I had made up, and that my whole article was about this word I made up. It was a word that replaced the word fuck. It's this word froke I created. It was like, it's just, you can use froke whenever you want because no one sees it as a curse word, but you can use it in place of curse words. And I thought maybe my mom's like, you're never getting into this college with this stupid letter you're writing, but I wrote it and I got in, so maybe it worked. But I'm with you. I'll just use words inappropriately all the time.
So when did you garnish this partnership with Paloma?
Basically, our perhaps our biggest expense, if not, it's one of the top three, are jerseys. They're so expensive. And we had been sponsored by Puma for years, and then Umbro most recently for 2 years. And part of the partnership is that we get the jerseys at below wholesale. We get the jersey shipped, then we print them locally, which is the expensive part. It almost doubles the cost. So whatever you get at wholesale, double it, because that's what it's going to cost to print. So we had them printed locally. And then they would give us like all our soccer balls and swag and cleats and shorts and everything. That was part of the sponsorship. They hooked all that up. So we got all these balls for free, and that was a big part of the sponsorship. When running the numbers, I was like, look, we got to get the cost of these jerseys down. And so then I called a couple buddies up, I called a buddy up that ran his own clothing line, and said, look, can you help us get into a factory, because I want to see what we can price jerseys at ourselves, because even if we save $1, we're ordering so many of them that even if we save $1, we could potentially use that to hire somebody. Well, he makes a connection with him. We're able to save like $3.50. I was like, this is amazing. But then I got to hook up per jersey. But then I got to hook up through a friend of mine. This guy's prolific in the soccer space. He actually owns the new San Diego MLS team. I went to college with him. He's Egyptian. I heard that there's a ball coming out of Egypt that's going to be used for the World Cup. And I said, I knew that once we were manufacturing our own jerseys, we'd have to manufacture our own balls because we weren't getting them for free anymore. So I texted him and said, hey, can you connect me with this factory in Egypt? Because we need to make our own balls, and I'm half Egyptian, and maybe, I can, that's a good connection. He's like, I'm actually going to connect you with somebody else. So he connects me with this other guy, this lovely dude named Saif, who runs a business called Tempo, which is a sportswear brand that's actually widely used in the Saudi league. And he manufactured our jerseys, and we were able to get like a $5 savings per jersey.
Damn.
And so that was
And I love that mentally
huge.
You're thinking, oh, we could hire somebody, as opposed to we could just profit more.
That's exactly. It was like, look, I can. That's in this business. Especially when you're understaffed. It's like, okay, if we make this move on jerseys, we could potentially hire 2 new people, with just the savings on the jerseys alone. Like that's for us.
That's massive.
Massive. So that's what we did. So we had the savings, and the jerseys are higher quality, nicer than what we were getting before. Dope. We got them designed by this very well-known Brooklyn artist named Duke Riley. He owns his own tattoo parlor called East River Tattoo. He's a huge pigeon fanatic. He does a lot of pigeon art installations. And so I asked him, would you design these jerseys? And so he designed the jerseys and the Paloma ball. I don't know if there's any Paloma balls lying around here. They're somewhere. But so you got like the cityscape, and then you've got this Duke Riley pigeon on the front of it. And so, yeah, and then so that was a big deal. We launched the Paloma line. So that was a huge milestone. We got our own brand, reduced the cost of jerseys. We can now launch a new design every season. Huge upgrade for the league. Wonderful. We've now got this Cup of Dreams tournament we're trying to execute in the summer. That's another big deal. And then expanding. So we launched, this Sunday is going to be the start of our very first league outside of New York. It's going to be in New Jersey, in Jersey City. And we are currently looking in other markets to either acquire a small operation in the market or start from scratch. And we're going to hope to be in another market that's not New Jersey or New York come fall. We're going to test a new market. I won't say what that market is right now. And that's like right now it's definitely expansion. We'd like to be in 5 markets come the World Cup, because for us the World Cup is a huge deal.
Huge.
To be the biggest league,
yeah,
not just in New York but in the country.
That's massive.
With that event descending on this country, that's a huge opportunity for us to like potentially hit a whole new level because of sponsors and partners coming in and wanting how do I activate soccer? Oh, footy's the biggest thing, and in New York you got to go through them, or footy's got this operation in all these different cities, got to go through them. That could really propel us to a different level, potentially, of an influential soccer outfit in this country. And then, for the team and growing that in their careers and being able to,
in the same vein of the advice that you gave your brother, where just do what you're doing and it'll grow. Just do what you're doing.
Just show up every day.
And it'll grow.
Yeah. Show up every day, do the thing that you love every day, consistently.
And to piggyback on that, give me one word of advice for anyone trying to make it.
I'll give you a couple because I think these both are important and they're tied. One is baby steps, small compounding wins. You'll hear this from other entrepreneurs. It sounds harder, but it's not. It's wherever you are, if you're at the very start or you're further along, what is the next small achievable milestone? Accomplish that. And then set the next one and accomplish that. If you keep focusing on where you want to be, you will just be paralyzed by how long it takes to get there. And there's a great visual for that. It's a visual of 2 ladders if you haven't seen it. Both ladders are the same height. Both ladders go to the same place. One ladder has like 100 steps. One ladder has like 4 steps. And when you're starting out, the person can't reach the first step of the one ladder while the other one's already climbing all the small steps of the other one. So it's obviously the one with the small steps is going to reach their vision. And the one with the big steps is never going to get there because he can't. It's that milestone's too far away. I love that visual. And it's like that, and what I used to do with footy is like, can footy make enough money to cover my cell phone bill? I remember this day. It's like, we just cut ourselves a check. It covers our cell phone bill for the year. Then I remember it covering rent. Like that's how my brain always worked. What's the next thing that like earnings from footy can cover? I remember early on actually with footy alone. Sorry, I know we want to end on a piece of advice, but it's like with footy, it was, do we have more teams than the Premier League, which is 20 teams? So I could say, oh, our league has more teams than the Premier League, and then eventually it was like, can we have more teams than the big 5 leagues combined, which was 100 teams in a single season? It's like we have more teams this season than the big 5 combined. Now we're 6 times the size of that. I don't even know what that equates to. Oh, now it's like, can we have enough players to, like a milestone in my brain is, can we have enough players to fill MetLife Stadium? That's going to take a while still from where we are now. But that's another milestone.
Let's fill Red Bull Stadium first.
Well, that's true. We can fill Red Bull Stadium right now, which is great. So that's a good shout. So and so that's where my brain goes. And, those are still big, but those are now, those milestones change a bit. But remember at first it's like cover the cell phone bill, so those small compounding baby steps is a recipe for success no matter where you are. What's the small little win? I mean, even what you were describing, getting the podcast set up and everything, it's like, how do you find the one small win there amidst that headache, that when you achieve that win, it's a rewarding feeling. That's why setting goals is so important. So a small achievable goal, you set it. Even if it's small, when you achieve it, it feels good. It feels like momentum. And if you told me that someone had a $10 million business now or a $1 million business with momentum, I'd take the momentum all day long, every single day, because they're just chopping away at small wins. Or even a $100,000 business. It's like, what's more exciting? A business with momentum that's just crushing these small goals that they set so well for themselves. Oof. That to me that scares me the most from a competitor. If a competitor comes in, they're just chopping. They're super small. They've got 300 players, but they just keep chipping away at these small W's. That's very intimidating for me. Seriously. The other bit of advice is just show up every single day, no matter what. My wife, who runs an Ayurvedic practice, she just got asked, she moved to a new market, so new clients, it's tough. You got to build that customer base again. Someone asked her, can you do this talk at this little session and we'll help promote it? And, no one had registered. And I was like, show up and teach that class to nobody. My nephew's trying to, be a singer, and he's like, go to the bar and there's like only 2 people there. Show up if there's nobody there. The best comedians showed up when, people didn't laugh at them. They also showed up when no one was there to laugh at them. You got to keep showing up no matter what, and then take pride in that. I showed up today when nobody was there, and I love my business even more because that's the commitment I was willing to do for this thing I love. I was willing to show up when nobody was there to even see it. Now I know that person's going to be successful for sure. I know that.
Amen, dude. This was inspiring.
Thank you for having me and letting us tell some of these stories.
Tarek is taking NYC Footy nationwide. You heard it here first. Just watch.